Hello. Someone asked me a while ago what I usually wear when I go hiking, and I decided to make a more or less short video on the topic. Now, to give a really short answer, I only wear American and British Army surplus clothing, and to go more into details, I have been wearing only Army surplus clothes for the last 3 years. Mostly because I'm quite fed up with stupid design materials that are not durable, bad workmanship, stupid colors like red, blue and green and bright green, and unnecessary details and bad functionality, as Army surplus is basically relatively cheap compared to so-called high quality brands. Colors are usually camouflage, they look nice, they are highly functional, well made, good materials, they are to be, let's say shortly, very high quality garments in a relatively cheap price. Now, the American system is not cheap, it's relatively expensive, but the British Army stuff is quite affordable even for the beginners, and I would recommend that if you want to get quite a lot of clothing, let's say from Gore-Tex suits to thermal clothing to just basic hiking gear, go with the British Army stuff because it's cheap and it's designed to be, everlasting, and it works. And some people might say you are silly and you might be confused as a soldier, but as long as you don't pretend you are a soldier, there shouldn't be any problem, even in England or in Norway or wherever you go. I assume that it's a crime to impose as a soldier. But if you have a big smiley face in your jacket, there's no chance that would happen. Now, I usually split up my gear according to temperature, and I think most people will do the same. Like if it's something like plus 24 constantly, like this summer in Finland, where we had I think 6 weeks in a row over 25 degrees daily, I would select my British Army hot weather jacket and trousers, and I made a review on those I think 1 or 2 months ago. That's an excellent setup for hot weather, but it also has to be quite dry because the good thing is that it's a really breathable and comfortable setup, and it's good for long distance hiking and why not short distance hiking, but the downside is that as it's breathable, it's not really watertight, so even the mildest dew, light rain will go straight through, so there should be a little more protection from the wet elements. Also, it's not really windproof at all, so if you are in the mountains and it's really windy, even if it's only like 20 degrees, it's not necessarily comfortable, but anyhow, in normal hiking in a forest or whatever, if it's dry, over plus 24, 25, I would go with that. It has nice cargo pockets in the chest area and in the trousers, so short trips you don't necessarily even need a backpack, all your gear goes in the pockets, or if you need a backpack you need a really small one. Let's say if it's something like from plus 15 to plus 24 or something like that, on that range I would take my British Army Combat Soldier 95 system, or the temperate weather trousers and jacket from the British Army PCF system. It's basically the same design as it is in the warm weather combat trousers and jacket, but the fabric is a little bit more thicker. It gives a little bit more resistance to the wind and the wetness, so light rain, it is not really a waterproof, but slight rain is not a problem, but especially dew, wet forest, if you have to hike through hay and trees and whatever, you don't get immediately wet, and especially if you are having some kind of mesh underwear, you know, the wet fabric isn't touching your skin, so it's still comfortable to a certain extent, and it's a good setup. And now from plus 15 to the 0 degrees, there are two options: the British Army windproof smock and trousers, or the American extended cold weather clothing system level of 5 and 4 combined. And we'll come to this part later, but if it's colder than the freezing point, I will always go with the level 5 from the US system, because now the bad side with, there's nothing actually wrong with the windproof smock what comes to the design and whatnot, but the material is bad for really cold weather because it's a polycotton mixed with 50-50 or 60-40, and as it has cotton, it will absorb moisture, and if you are having a break and you put thermal cloth over your smock, well, as it is already wet, it doesn't insulate that well, and if it starts to evaporate, it takes energy from your body, and that's a really bad situation, especially like if you are something like minus 25, minus 30, minus 35, you don't really want that. Even in minus 5, it doesn't really feel that nice. So there's also a really big problem with the windproof smock, that it's kind of bulky, and the trousers are kind of bulky, and they have cargo pockets, and if you use the cargo pockets, it's really hard. Even if you wouldn't use the cargo pockets, having a thermal cloth over your windproof smock and trousers is a little bit of a task, because as I said, they are bulky. And now of course you might get extra large thermal clothes, but then you get the problem that you cannot really use them without having the windproof smock underneath. And well, if you spend 700 euros for thermal clothing, that's a little bit of a problem. Of course, if you would go with the British Army system, that wouldn't be a problem, because you get the thermal trousers and jacket for less than 60 euros, so maximum 100 euros brand new from eBay, so that. So, but anyhow, having them being polycotton prevents them from being used during the winter time. There's also the thing that somebody might say, okay, but you can dry them with a fire or whatever. Well, I never make a fire, even in very cold climates and weather. I don't really make fire unless I have to make food, and I make food with a very little gas cooker, so I don't really make fire unless I have to survive, but I've never been in that situation, so I never do that. So therefore, in really cold weather, the American system is designed, is actually perfect, because it's designed to be worn as I use thermal clothing. So if you have level 5 on you, that is a soft shell suit, well, it's designed to be used underneath the thermal clothes, so Americans just pull out their happy suits and level 7s, that is a thermal clothing level, and they just put that on and they are very happy and warm. And as the level 5 is made out of completely synthetic material, it doesn't absorb anything, and if there's any moisture, it's either on the inside or outside layer of the clothing, so it's really easy to get rid of even during winter time. All you need is a brush or something like that, and you just, it comes off mostly. And it's relatively breathable, and there is good ventilation in the armpits and in the front, so that's a good setup. Now, the American system is usually, or the official instructions is that it should only be used from below 0 temperatures or something like that. I've noticed that I can use it somewhere up to plus 15 degrees quite easily if I use mesh underwear. The Americans don't mention anything about mesh underwear, so well, it extends the use range quite a bit. So with this level 4 wind jacket, plus 15 is still doable, even if I have to climb mountains in the north. Now there's also one good reason why I usually select the American system when it's plus 15 to 0 if I go, let's say, to the north, because it's bloody light. The windproof smoke is a good jacket for forest use when it's quite level. You don't have to do extended climbing. There's a lot of abrasions, let's say if you go in the forest and you have a compass bearing and there's a lot of trees, a lot of branches, a lot of rocks and whatnot. It's a very durable jacket for that. It has a really good space for your equipment in your pockets and it's quite comfortable. Bugs can't get through it and it's a bloody good jacket and trousers, but the only problem is that it's heavy, especially if you get it wet. It's really heavy. The jacket weighs something like 1,300 grams and trousers weigh something like 700. So it's 2 kilos worth of clothing. Now this is dry weight, so if you go up to the mountains in the north, you don't really want to carry any extra weight unless you want to make the argument that you just tell your friends that you carry 40 kilos of equipment, and they are like, okay, no one really cares. So it's much easier to carry less material every time, and if you have an option to get the American system, well, if you have the level 5, meaning that you have soft shell trousers and jacket, those weigh something like a little bit over a kilo. If I take my wind jacket with me, it's something like 1,300 or 104,000 grams in total. So you save easily 1 kilo in just your outer layer. So that makes total sense to use the American system. And American system is a little bit more expensive. I would say that from eBay you can get the whole level 5, let's say something like 200 euros. If you want the windproof jacket, 250 euros in total. The British system, of course, is even brand new in DBM camouflage. It's something like 100 euros, probably less if you get a good bargain. So there's a price difference, and that's about it, I guess. What comes to the waterproof equipment, I basically have the 2005 British Army Gore-Tex jackets, and then I have both lightweight Gore-Tex liner jacket and trousers from the British Army, and then I have the level 6 from the American Army. If I'm in the DBM, actually in the multi-terrain patterns, I usually either take the British Army or the US Army system, because, yeah, well, I can use the British Army liner underneath my level 5 soft shell if I want to, or I can just use the American system. They look pretty much the same, so there's not that much difference there. But of course, if I'm using a DBM windproof smoke and trousers, I always take 2005 British system, because, well, I don't like mixing colors. So stick to the camouflage, boys and girls. And that's about it, I guess. If someone has a question about this, I will probably answer that too in more or less quickly.